Welcome to Crime Crazy, the weekly true crime podcast with Erin Plime.
Hello!
And Jordan Middleton. That's me.
My hello was really loud.
It was pretty funny. Did I not ruin this one?
No,
Did you ruin this one? Yes! She better leave this in there, guys.
I didn't know you were going to pause.
Welcome to Crime Crazy, the weekly true crime podcast with Erin Plime.
Hello!
And Jordan Middleton. That's me. Join us each week as we prove that we know pretty much nothing about our legal system, but we're really crazy for a good true crime story. Happy Tuesday. Happy podcast day.
Woohoo!
Are you ready for our stories today?
I don't know, but you know what else it is today?
What?
It's my mom's birthday.
Oh. I'd like to take this minute right now to dedicate this podcast episode to our number one fan.
So there's another little thing with that, though.
What's wrong?
Well, it's just that there are a couple of other people who are striving to be our number one fan. And my mom is doing a good job, harassing me in public bathrooms about getting episodes out in time for her car trip.
Oh, my God.
She's driving to get my sister today from college.
Aww.
She's like, do you have the episode? Could you just give it to me? Can you just put it out early so that I have something to listen to the whole way there?
Today's episode? Right now we're recording?
The one that actually came out this morning.
Oh, okay.
And because she had not listened to 8.
Oh, my God.
And then she was like, but I also need 9 because it's more than an hour trip.
Oh.
So she's working hard. But at the same time, you remember when I credited her with coming up with our new question about which crime didn't you choose?
Yeah.
Well, that was actually my friend Mandy.
Oh.
Yeah. So she was working really hard to be our number one fan. And then out of nowhere, her mom, Donna, swooped in and has been replying to all of our Instagrams. She's been texting me and she's been on Facebook.
Aww,
she has an
cute.
opinion about every episode.
I love it. I like that.
So I don't know who our number one fan is, but I'm happy to make this a birthday podcast. You know what else it is?
What?
It's our 10th podcast.
Oh, my God.
And to celebrate, I got you some presents.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, my God. I'm so unprepared. What is it?
I got you that microphone that you're talking into.
I know. It's so beautiful, guys. I'm going to take a picture of it and with my crinkled up papers from what is left of my old notebook.
Aww. I also got you a sticker for your car.
You have no idea. I was so jealous when you had one. I was like, I want one.
So that sticker, the thing about it is I didn't order it. I had it. I made it on my Cricut. Right, because I'm super crafty.
Crafty.
Yeah. The fingerprint to pick out the pieces that aren't fingerprint without pulling up the pieces that are fingerprint. Yeah, we're ordering the rest of them.
Yeah. I was at breakfast and they have the placemats with the ads and stuff on them.
Oh, I know where you went for breakfast.
Yeah. And one of them was for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should just be
for a podcast?
Well, no, it was just T-shirts, decals, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah, the sign place.
Yeah,
we have a local sign, yeah.
I was like, that might come in handy.
Yeah, we need to find somebody, mostly just because I want swag.
Yeah.
I need merch.
I know.
I don't know. What do we have? We have one fan that
Who
wanted,
wants one?
Yes,
I know. I was like, oh, you sweetheart. Okay.
Right? Probably if you sent me your address, I would probably send you that sticker, even though it's a pain in the ass to make because, well, then my sticker would be on somebody's car.
Yeah.
I was tempted, when I first started cutting them out, I made this sheet. Mm-hmm. Which, of course, it's podcast, so nobody can see but you. But there's 10 of them on there.
There are.
And I was like, well, I'll just print a whole bunch and I'll give them to everybody and it'll be great. So we're not doing that.
No.
Because I'm not picking those things out.
No, I don't blame you at all.
It's just going in the trash.
So, since I have a short story at the end, do you want me to go first? Or do you want me to do both my stories back to back?
No, go first.
Okay.
I talked the most last time because your throat was sore.
Oh, that's true.
You can talk this time because I'm going to drink this gin and ginger. It is not butterscotch and ginger. By the way, that drink sucks.
Yeah, and I called it and I didn't even drink it.
It tasted like puke.
As you probably saw from Instagram, my dog tore apart my crime crazy notebook. And the only 2 pages that survived, along with one other that was like half maybe, was my story for tonight. So my short story is probably in my Great Dane's stomach, but luckily I have that one on my phone. So if you hear my papers crinkle, I can't help it.
We should invite everybody to like follow us on Snapchat, because your Snapchat about this, that's why I was like, I'm calling you in 2 minutes as soon as I walk out of the building. You were. I was like, because at first I was like, oh, this is hilarious, blah, blah. And then I got your Snapchat and you were like crying. I was like, okay, I'm about to call you.
I know, my words were all shaky, and I went and got Mike out of the yard, came in, and I saw it, and it was just instantly, I don't know why, I just instantly started crying, and I was like, how dare you?
It's because of everything in your life recently. This is what you've worked on.
Right?
I know this is what I've put the most hours into.
Yes.
I would be devastated.
Yes. And I told Mike, I was like, I wrote like 18 pages this morning.
We forgot something.
What?
Jordan, what crime didn't you choose to talk about this week?
Okay, I'm glad you worded it like that.
I know, because I was waiting for murder.
It's always murder. Ugh.
This time it was animal murder.
Well, I don't want to say too much, but it definitely was about like an OG, like an original gangster.
Oh, I thought that's one you were doing.
No, I switched it up because that one is so detailed to the point where I didn't feel like I had researched enough, and I was already going on 4 pages. And he was like so young when he died, so I'm like, how did he get this much done in his life? But yeah, there's way too much.
When the criminal is more accomplished than you.
Right? I know. But it was weird because I mentioned it to Mike this morning, and I was like, yeah, this is what I was going to do. And I dropped like his like code name or alias or whatever. Yeah. He knew exactly who I was talking about and started talking about him. And I'm like,
I think you need to keep an eye on that boyfriend of yours, because that seems to be what you say every week.
I know, but he's
Mike knows all about this.
He's always ahead of me, though.
And so either he is a true crime fan, or he's just totally connected. All right, so you didn't do the OG one.
This one is about a guy named Earl.
Cool. All right, go for it.
All right, so his name is Earl Nelson.
Earl.
But he has an E at the end of his name, and I don't like it.
At the end of Nelson?
At the end of Earl.
Oh, so he's like early.
I know. The early bird gets the worm, or gets the landlady. Anyway.
Landlady? Oh, God.
We'll get to that. Okay, so he was born in Philadelphia on May 12th. So when is his birthday? Is it coming up?
It's like Saturday, right?
Happy birthday, Earl.
Is it Saturday?
He's probably in hell. It's Friday. Okay.
Friday.
His birthday's Friday. And he was born in 1897.
Ooh.
So an old crime, which are becoming more of my favorite.
I agree. The really twisted, kind of like around 100 years old.
Yeah.
Like, before it was harder to get away with things.
There's so much more information to read about the older crimes.
Right.
So I know I've been like leaning towards those more.
I have too.
So he was orphaned at 9 months old. His mom died from an advanced venereal disease.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, you gotta think of the time.
Yeah, but
does
that mean that he probably had it too?
I don't know. They never said. So I was like, he probably did. I mean, there was probably no way to test for it, but he probably did.
It was syphilis.
Oh, that'd be sad.
Syphilis is like the most fascinating STD.
Ew.
Just because it does all of these, it has all these stages, and then when it gets really bad, you like go insane. And
the aunt adopts him. She was just super like scary religious, like one of those well, she adopted him, so he wasn't orphaned, so that's at least nice. And her biblical duty, is that a thing? Whatever, she did it at age 10.
Was she like the godmother?
No, it just said that it was the aunt.
I bet she was his godmother. So the godmother aunt, I decided she was a syphilitic godmother.
Yes, that was
adopts.
That was all Aaron, guys.
9-month-old baby,
not reported by me. Yes, adopted him, and then whatever. So fast forward a little bit. Age 10, he was playing in the street because that's what any stupid kid does, and got hit and then dragged 50 feet by a trolley car.
Oh my God. Wait. A trolley car.
Yeah.
So was he like playing on trolley tracks or under the lines? Okay. So it wasn't even just like, oh, it's a cul-de-sac and I can ride my bike in the road.
actual street. He was in Philly.
Yeah,
so
okay.
he was just like in the freaking city.
So the aunt's not really doing a great job.
I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt of like the time period because there was a lot going on. So this would have been 1907. So you know what I mean? Like it was just like everyone was pretty much factory working in my head. Like everyone was just, trying to make ends meet. And
I mean, yeah, that was a few years before like the one that I did last time about the pencil factory. So so she's probably out working, and he was supposed to be at work, but instead he's hanging out on the undercarriage of a trolley car.
And so pretty much he's
involuntarily.
So he ended up staying, let's see. Yeah, he was in a coma for 6 days.
Oh my gosh.
He was left with a hole in his temple.
Oh.
And this would affect him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So he reported throughout his life, so it started after this, obviously, but up until the day he died, that he would have headaches, dizziness. He went a little crazy. At times he would just kind of like lose it. And he would, one of the things that was weird, he would walk around on his hands and he would pick heavy items up with his teeth.
While walking around on his hands?
No, I don't think at the same time.
So
that was like one of the things like that they were like, ew, why is he crazy? Like he's walking around on his hands. So
he was just doing it because he was weird, not like because
like he didn't do that
helped his headache and dizziness.
Yeah, he didn't do that before he had the hole in his temple, and then after he did that. So they were like, oh, it must be together because doctors were really thorough back then.
Do you think he was able to walk on his hands before he had a hole in his temple, or did he get superpowers from being hit by a trolley?
Definitely not the superpowers part.
Okay.
No. So
that's too bad.
The whole walking on the hands thing will come up later. So don't forget that.
Oh, it's important?
It's important.
What?
So, I told you I picked a good story.
Story did you find?
It's a good one. So, let's see. He, through, his adolescence, he read and studied the Bible constantly, but yet would talk...
That's how you make a serial killer.
Here, this was my favorite line. But yet would talk smut. Who uses that word? But anyway.
So, wait. Is that like... When I was in, like, 6th grade and we were all outside walking around and one of the girls was like... I don't know what a blowjob is. Can you tell me what a blowjob is?
I would think that was smut.
That's him talking smut.
Talking about perversions, maybe.
So he read the Bible, but
still
he was
did that.
A preteen boy.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So not only did he talk smut, but he would spy on his, this is gross, female cousin while she was changing.
Okay, so that's one of those things that you then become, like a rapist or something.
Oh,
great.
But wait, there's more.
No, you already did sex crimes last time.
Oh no, it doesn't last long, and this is not a pun.
That's what she said.
And yet, so he lived in the basement because it was dark, and it said he stayed there in his solitude. So he was a creepy teenage boy, essentially. And then in 1918, he was charged with attempted rape of a neighborhood girl. He dragged her into the basement, and I guess she got away, but he ended up in court for it. And which I was like, props to 1918 policemen, because even now there's like rape cases and nothing's happening. So thank God he ended up in court.
Right.
Yeah. So he ended up in court, and they revealed that I guess he was trying to, I don't know if he was trying to or forced to because of the draft or whatever they needed him for the military. But they discharged him and said, no, we don't want him because he's insane. So
I would think his like traumatic brain injury and
would have been enough
to be like, oh no, you're too much of a liability. You can't go.
Nope. They said it was because he was insane.
It's
they
a pre-existing condition.
Oh my God. So they said, no, we can't have him because he's insane. So they sent him to this like prison farm thing, and he tried to escape so many times. Finally, the third escape was successful. He did get out, and he started living his life as a Roger Wilson.
Oh.
So, Yeah. So 2 times wasn't enough to teach them, like, oh, he needs max security. So he got out on the 3rd time.
You got to put him in
his name.
Tobin-style jail with bars.
Bars that you can't
and
get
bad
out.
Guys. Oh, Tobin would like us to also point out bars and bad guys, and you can't leave.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is you can't leave.
He forgot to say that.
He did. Also, Daddy's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That was funny.
I think I covered all of our corrections from last week.
Yeah, he's going to be happy we did that for him. So he got out. He posed as Roger Wilson, married a young school teacher, pretty much drove her nuts because he was insanely jealous and obviously he was a horrible person. He was insane. Drove her to a mental breakdown. So she ended up in the hospital. He broke into her hospital room and tried to molest her.
What?
Yeah. So the staff drove him off. He was arrested and he broke out of the jail again, wherever they keep putting him, obviously isn't enough. And that was in 1923. And this is pretty much the start of his crazy killing spree.
Okay, so everything before this was just background information.
Yep.
Even though at this point, really, they should lock him up for probably forever.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
So there were 2 years that he was just kind of off the grid. Okay. It might have been a little bit more than 2 years, but, around about 2 years. Well, then everything kind of started in February of 1926. And it lasted all till June 1927. So this has all happened.
It's only a year and a little bit.
Yep. So this has all happened within pretty much, the year and a little bit, like you just said. And if any year has changed, I will let you know. But everything is in between February 1926 to June 1927. It's about to be a lot.
Okay. I'm kind of ready.
So I don't know if I wrote down every single one, but he admitted to claiming the lives of at least 22 victims. He literally is crazy. He was. Obviously,
he
dead.
probably is literally crazy, which is kind of sad because maybe if he hadn't been injured, he wouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he also seems kind of evil.
Oh, yeah, because he, I'll tell you.
I mean, I feel like we should differentiate because crazy.
He was
crazy
psychotic.
And good.
He was psychotic. He would charm most of his victims. Ooh. Where, he would be exactly what they wanted him to be. Either, a ladies' man or, which I'm like, ew.
So psychopath.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Really good at reading people.
Or he would hold his Bible tight and be that one, or he'd be charming, or be like the son they never had, and he was very good at this. I don't know how he learned. Maybe he took the 2 years off to learn how to act like what people needed.
Like a person.
Learn
how to blend in.
Yeah.
Well, tell me his name again.
Earl Nelson.
Earl Nelson. Okay.
All right. So here we go. What he would do, essentially, almost every single murder, was he would rent rooms from landladies who mostly were spinsters or widows. Most of them he would rape and then kill.
Not cool, dude.
I don't know, because sometimes it said the order of kill and then rape.
Oh, no.
So that is in the air, but I think that's what happened some cases.
Great.
Most of them were older, if they were spinsters and widows. Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, you're hurting a person and torturing them before you kill them. On the other hand, you're sick enough to want to have sex with a corpse.
Yep.
I don't know which one of those is not...
Both sides of the coin are horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was gross. So really, he started in San Francisco is the first one I could find. He kind of moved around because the first few were all 60 and up. So it was one in San Francisco, one in San Jose, Santa Barbara, then Oakland. And those were, every time he stopped, he would kill another landlady, raping and killing or killing and raping. And they were all over 60. One was 63, the other one was 61. Ugh. So then
he's probably like renting out a room in their home.
Oh yeah,
not
he's
like
yeah.
They own an apartment or they own a townhouse.
No, a few times it was like they met him at a house that they were renting out, or so he would always act interested in whatever they were renting out.
Right.
Some of them were not landladies, but I want to say a majority of them were.
I'm guessing he probably didn't pay his rent either.
No, I don't think he stayed there. He would kill them same day.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah, so he wouldn't even live there.
He was just hunting landladies. That was his type.
Pretty much. So I think there was like one...
Not entirely
that he
stupid.
actually stayed there. And everything else, I think he was just kind of staying on the streets. Like, I don't think he stayed in any of the places. So after he kind of floated around California for a while, he moved to Portland, Oregon.
Uh-oh.
So then this one, the 19th of October, he raped and strangled, which that was his preferred killing method, was strangle all of his victims with... Some were with scarves, hands, whatever he wanted to use.
Right, which is long and personal and close and physically demanding. And
he probably, I know he raped them, but I feel like
that's what got him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that October 19th, he raped and strangled a 35-year-old, and they found her remains in a car trunk. The 20th, so the next day, killed another, left her body outside of the house that she was trying to rent. The 21st, another strangled with a scarf found in her own attic. So those ones were older ladies. They were the landlady type. Then after, all of the killings in California, then in Portland, finally the Portland.
Natalie Portman.
Right? Thanks.
She's really a lot older than you might think.
So after all of the killings in California, and then the 3 days in a row of killings in Oregon, finally the police ID'd him. Finally. They interviewed the aunt, and the aunt talked about how, it would be easily, identifiable because he walks around on his hands. So, they were like,
so he
what do you
only
mean?
walks around on his hands?
Well, no, I don't think so. But she said, that's his thing. He walks around on his hands. And they were like, okay. So then the press named him the gorilla killer. Oh. Which I was like, oh my God, he's literally killing gorillas. But now I understand because he walks around on his hands like a monkey. So they named him the gorilla killer.
Okay, so when you're saying he walks around on his hands, he's not walking in handstand position. He's walking like an animal on
all
four
fours.
Legs.
Yeah.
Huh. Do you think it's a balance thing? It
might have been because of the brain problem.
Right.
I don't get the whole picking heavy things up with his teeth.
Unless his hands were busy walking, so he didn't have any other way to do it.
I guess so. But
yeah,
that's what she was like, well, he walks around like that, so why haven't you been able to find him?
For the record, if somebody comes up to rent a room in my house and they're walking on all fours, and I'm a single woman and it's a dude with a hole in his temple, probably going to say it's already taken.
Like he probably was on when he was meeting these women. So
yeah,
he's probably
you're
upright.
Probably right.
You're probably but on his off time, he probably was walking around like that.
Nope.
Yep. So that's why when I was like, oh, it was like gorilla murderer, and I was like, why is he doing that?
He's the gorilla murderer.
Yeah. So he has a different name, but we'll get to that. Like a different part of the country.
The love surgeon.
Yeah. Ugh. So after they ID'd him, he was like, well, I better get out of here. He went back to San Francisco, November 18th, so not even a full month after they ID'd him. He didn't lay low at all. He killed a housewife of some guy, William Edmonds. He wasn't really referenced a whole lot, but then November...
just broke into a house and killed the woman.
Yep. God, she was home, so he did that. And then November 24th, he went to Oregon City and killed another landlady and stuffed her under her own bed. And then he was kind of hitchhiking and catching the rails is what they said. And he got to Council Bluffs, Iowa. So at this point, he's kind of moving more towards the East Coast. He gets over to, let's see. So on his way to Kansas City, he kills another landlady on December 23rd. He finally makes it to Kansas City on December 28th. Oh, no. On Christmas. I'm sorry. He gets there on Christmas Day. Kills a 23-year-old.
Somehow that's even worse.
I know. Which was like so sad. And then December 28th, it was a double homicide, a lady and her 8-month-old baby.
Oh my gosh.
Right? He's like, this is him falling apart. Like,
well,
obviously.
Yes, this whole year sounds like it. And he's accelerated so much. Like, he's killing every couple days. And
so this is all still within the year, the February,
Are we sure 22 is the most?
Well, that's why they said at least 22.
Because it sounds like if he was killing that often, unless there was, like, something that happened in there, what would keep him from
stopping?
This is like every day, every other day, every 2 days.
And a lot of the time is travel, which I've kind of like thought about. I'm like, okay, so like the big breaks, he is traveling from states apart. But other times
he's like killing people at rest stops.
I would say other times I think he's killing, but it's probably someone who is like a hobo or like, that doesn't have... Is it
catching out? Is that when you jump on a train?
I guess.
I think it's called catching out.
Yeah, I think so.
But Criminal Minds taught me that, so you probably want to turn off this podcast. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, let's see. By April 27th, so see, that's another big break. His last killing was in December, and then April 27th, he pops back up again.
Seasonal depression.
He makes it back to his hometown of Philly, and he kills another 60-year-old woman. And then May, he got to Buffalo, New York, and killed someone. And these are all the same, the strangling.
Man, all across the country. No one is safe.
Age 35, and then got to Detroit, June 1st, landlady and a tenant. Two days later, a 27-year-old in Chicago. And then, obviously... now would be the time to be worried about the police because he was like, oh man, I'm really worried that they're going to catch me now. So he decided to move to Winnipeg, Canada.
Oh.
So he was like, I'll leave the States, whatever. He rented a room on June 8th in 1927. Same day, strangled a 14-year-old girl.
Oh.
Her name was Lola, and I literally put same fucking day and I underlined it. She was the daughter of his neighboring tenant. June 9th, so the next day, the housewife, let's see, what was her name? Emily Patterson was found bludgeoned and raped. So not even strangled. Is that
Lola's mom?
They didn't say. So, oh no. Yeah, because Lola has a different last name, so I'm assuming not. But, this was a housewife. Emily Patterson was found bludgeoned and raped in her home. Her body was also stuffed under her bed. But this is what kind of...
I feel like that's not an effective way to hide.
I don't... Like, one, he left the landlady, like, in her own attic.
Right. He didn't bury anybody.
Oh,
he
no.
Didn't... Like, you might as well just leave him on top of the bed.
I swear that he wanted to get caught, but they couldn't catch him.
He did. Maybe he had this compulsion and...
Oh, yeah.
I
swear.
I don't know why I'm, like, trying to feel sorry for him. He's evil.
I don't know. But this is what ended up happening to, like... This is how he ended up getting caught. And it's something so stupid. And, like, you've been doing... Not to, like, praise him, but you've been doing so well so far. And now you're going to, like, mess it all up.
All of that, right.
So what he did is he stole clothing from his last victim's, I guess, house or apartment. And sold them to a secondhand store. As soon as he got his cash, he went to go get a haircut. The barber noticed dried blood in his hair.
He didn't take a shower.
And I'm guessing in the time, 27.
Yeah.
I don't know what, like, water,
hygiene.
What was appropriate. But, and he was moving around. He was pretty much homeless. Like, he
that's
didn't
true.
stay in one spot long enough.
That's true.
So they noticed the dry blood in his hair. And they started thinking about it, and he was like, he kind of looks like the guy from the Wanted poster.
Oh.
Which I was like, that's crazy that he already has a Wanted poster, and he's barely been here. He's been here for, like, 4 days max. Total max.
Well, but he was nearby, right? Because he was in New York.
Yeah, the closest
he's
thing.
He's been everywhere.
So he moved from Chicago to Canada.
Okay.
That was the most, like, the last one in the States, and then he moved.
Gotcha.
So the barber called it in and was like, no, this guy's the guy. Like, you should come get him. So the police came and they picked him up, and he was jailed at Killarney. That's the only word I don't know how to say in my whole thing. And
he went to jail.
And he picked the lock with a nail file.
Oh, my God.
And got out. And I'm like, guys, you didn't even, like, strip search him? Like, anything? 1, and 2, why did he have a nail file? So
and why was the lock pickable with a nail file?
Right? I'm like, that's only in movies. But now I know why, because at one point, it was doable. So they picked him up 12 hours later, got him again. He did not escape after this time. His aunt and ex-wife were called to speak on his insanity in court.
Oh, that's probably fair.
Well, yeah, and the ex-wife was probably like, yeah, he's so crazy, he sent me into a mental breakdown and then tried to molest me. And the aunt was probably like, well, yeah, he tried dragging someone into our basement and, well, you know, right. Like, I'm sorry, I would sing like a canary. Well, he was sentenced to death, and he was hanged on January 13th, 1928. Ugh. And they, you know, did the whole, do you have any last words? And he did.
Oh, no.
So before he fell, he said, I am innocent. I stand before God and man. I forgive those who have wronged me and ask forgiveness of those I have injured. God have mercy. So they said that there's, you know, at least the 22 known deaths, but they think that he was the killer in a triple homicide that happened in Newark, New Jersey, in 1926, which was in his killing time.
Sure.
And 2 were strangled. 1 was shot, and that was like the only thing. He's never had a gunshot or anything like that, but they think that the 3rd one came in to protect, like, after realizing what he was doing to the 2 women and killed her.
Gotcha.
So that's what they think happened.
Would he have had the gun, or did he take it off one of the women, though?
I don't know. They never mentioned, but they couldn't link him to it, so I think they kind of just maybe not gave up on it, but they think that he might have been a part of that because I think it all fits. It's the same area. It's the same everything. So that is my story, and he had 2 names, and that was the gorilla murderer and the dark strangler. That's what Canada called him.
The dark strangler.
Yep.
So, I don't know if we have discussed executions.
I don't think so.
If you were going to be executed, how would you want to go? Of all, like, think about, like, all the historical, like, possibilities.
I don't know. I still think I would want, like, lethal injection.
Right. I feel like I would too.
Because it's probably, like, the least painful. You probably just, like, die. You know, your body just shuts down.
Well, and even if it's not painless, it's very quick. Yeah. Most of it. Like, when it's done right. I wouldn't want
to be, like, electrocuted.
That freaks me out a little bit. Oof. The one that really freaks me out, though, is hanging. I don't know why. I think it's because maybe, like, in middle school and high school, we read several stories where people got hanged. Mm-hmm. Like, we read The Crucible, and they were hanging people. Yeah. And we read An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. It's a short story. It's so good. But also involves a hanging. And, like, it really freaks me out. I don't know what it is.
I'm sure it's fast, but I think it's worse when they fall.
It's fast if it's okay. Yeah. If they do it right.
If they fall and they don't die immediately.
Then it's slow and painful.
Yeah.
But even that somehow, I don't know. There's something about snapping a neck that just really, I don't know.
That freaks me out.
It really is not okay.
I don't like anyone touching my neck, so I don't think I could do anything that, like, oh, God.
In physical therapy, when I was going for migraines, they would do, like, the traction thing, and it was so wonderful. Like, it really, really helped. Yeah. But at the same time, they hook you to this thing, and they give you a bell, and they're like, if something goes wrong, ring this bell and we'll run in here. And it's like, something goes wrong, meaning, like, you pull my head off. Like, what is going to go wrong?
No, I would not do that. All right, Erin, I'm excited for your story because I guessed it on our emoji thing.
Yeah, so I'm going to definitely post that, like, next Monday, so before this episode comes out, and see what people think, because I think that was, like, the best.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I had to do emojis for my story? It'd be, like, a bunch of old ladies and then a few little, like, younger ones and a baby mixed in between, and then, like, a bunch of rope if they have a rope emojis.
Right.
And that's it.
Well, the one where you were like, and then there were a whole bunch of people in a cult or something, like, I forget what it was that you said. But those were actually all the victims.
I I was going to say that, but I was like, what if they died in the cult? That's wrong of me to assume.
So Mark Kilroy is the guy that really sets this all off. What?
Kill is in his name?
It is.
Okay.
But he didn't kill anyone.
Oh. The plot thickens.
Right. So it's not like Mark killed Roy.
Oh.
That would be kind of great. But anyway, Mark Kilroy was a 21-year-old kid. He was a college student. And he went on Pi Day, 1989, which is March 14th, if you don't know when Pi Day is. If you don't know when Pi Day is, we don't have anything in common. Just stop listening. Or go look it up. We have epic parties.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so Pi Day, 1989. By the way, I was 7. You were...
Not alive.
Not alive. Okay. So he goes down in March for spring break, and he actually goes down to like the tip of Texas, and then you can like walk across the border into Mexico, and that's where they party, and then they'll come back to Texas and they'll go to all the beaches. And so he was in and out of the country a whole lot during this time. And it's spring break. He's partying. They spent the mornings at the beach. They would go back and try to take a nap, although they never napped. Then they would come out and they would walk into Mexico, and they'd have major parties all night long. And so one night he is partying in Mexico, and everybody's getting ready to go. And because like one of the guys he's with is just like, I'm not feeling it tonight, like kind of worn out. Let's just go back. And so they're all going to leave.
That'd be me.
Yeah. Well, it didn't sound like they got any sleep. Like they drove all night to get there and then partied that day. And then everything else I was reading, because I read one article where it gave like minute by minute account of him being down there. He never took a break the whole time. He was just going the whole time. So yeah, I'd be like, you know what would be great? If we all went back to the hotel and just went to bed. Yeah.
We got a few minutes sleep.
Right. Then maybe we'll get up in the morning and have a bottle of water and get rehydrated. Because I am great fun at a party. Anyway, so his friend steps off because he has to pee. And by the time he gets back, Mark is gone. And that's the last time anybody ever sees him. He's just disappeared. And they don't worry about him right away because he'd been talking to this girl who was in a Miss Tan Line competition.
Oh, God.
And he'd been talking to some other people, and they figured he probably like found someone and hooked up, or decided he wasn't ready to go home and went to another party. So they weren't really worried about him. But he doesn't turn up, and a month goes by.
Oh, my God.
And he doesn't turn up. So, fast forward to April 11th, 1989. And there's this guy, his name is Seraphin, and he's a gang member, but he's also a cult member. We'll get to that in a minute. And he's driving along, and he speeds through like just a routine traffic stop, like a checkpoint. And the police, instead of pulling him over, I guess because they suspected that he was in a gang and all that, like the gang was the Hernandez family gang, and he's like the Hernandez family. And so he's like Seraphin the Third or whatever. So, so they follow him, and he is so smart. He leads them straight to the ranch where they discover all kinds of horrible shit. So some of the things they find: cauldrons and bowls, which I think that if you own a cauldron and you're not throwing a Halloween party, you should probably just be arrested.
Like a real cauldron?
Yeah, it wasn't very big. I was thinking like cauldrons, like you could boil people in. Yeah. And then the picture I saw, it was like a little tiny cauldron, but whatever. The things that were in these cauldrons and bowls are where it gets bad. So there's a goat's head and a bunch of chicken heads. There's human blood. And brain.
Oh, God.
There are melted candles and all kinds of goo that's human and animal blood and body parts and flesh.
That's the most disgusting thing ever.
And then, of course, just a ton of pot.
Well, they have to do something.
Right. Well, actually, so that was their family business, was trafficking drugs, mainly marijuana. So that, I think, that was the thing they were expecting to find. Like, if we're going to uncover anything while we follow this guy to his secret hideout, then it'll probably be drugs.
Yep.
I don't think they were expecting heads and brains and bloods and cauldron and
I literally can't think about it. I'm like, ugh. Get a little
my
woozy.
Goal with this podcast is to make you puke on my couch.
Do not, because like, I can't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So I don't really want you to puke because I'd
Yeah.
probably puke. But if you do, I hate this couch. So if you could like do it in some way where we would have to throw the couch away. Okay. Anyway, so they expected to find marijuana, not so much human brains.
Okay.
So the cops, it takes like 2 days of them like sneaking around. So they leave the first day. They had just followed him there.
Sneaking around?
Yeah.
Oh.
They followed him there in an unmarked car. And they kind of looked around when he left because he only stayed for like half an hour. Then he left. Then they went back the next day. And that's when they arrested Serafin Hernandez and his uncle Elio, who's a big part of the story. And then David Valdez, Sergio Salinas, Domingo Bustamante. I'm going to call him Domingo Bustamove because that's what it looks like. And so these were all just like gang members and different people. And then there were a bunch of other people that escaped. They fled. And that's going to be important too.
Okay.
So all of these people, they arrest them, they take them back to the station. And this is in Mexico. So we're not in the United States. So laws are a little different and the way things work it's a little bit different. One of the things that they do is the captain who's in charge of everything, he like parades them in front of the press and he lets them talk to the press and give interviews. He's like, look, we caught these guys, and he puts them up on a balcony and they like shoot film. And all of these people they've arrested are like, yeah, well, we killed all these people, and like, look, I'm this guy, and just calm and open, and like, because they honestly believed they were totally immune, like protected from getting into any kind of trouble, getting injured, losing money, going to jail. Like they were invincible against these things.
Why?
So
did
they
think that?
didn't care about telling, well, here's why. Here's what's been going on. So the Hernandez family is an old like drug trafficking gang family. So they had been doing really well, but then their leader, who was really smart and sneaky and business minded and all this other stuff, he gets killed by a rival gang.
Yeah,
so,
how sneaky and smart.
Well, right. Excuse me. The point after that is that nobody was really very sneaky and smart that was left. So apparently, for a while, they really suffered. And that's when, so Elio Hernandez, the uncle of the guy that led them there, of Serafin, took over and eventually hooked up with this guy named Adolfo Constanzo. Okay, so Constanzo is not related to drug trafficking and all of that in any way. But what he is he is an only child who had been introduced by his mother to the religion of Palo Mayombe, which I'm probably saying terribly wrong.
I'm so glad you're pronouncing names wrong. Continue.
I know. Well, everything in here I'm going to pronounce wrong. I totally meant to like go down to the foreign language department at school today and be like, hey. Anyway, so basically this religion is kind of like Santeria. That's what people are more familiar with, where they like sacrifice animals and there's, just, and it gets a really bad name, and like people who practice Santeria are always the first suspects in all of the crime dramas that we watch and everything. Well, this is a little bit like that, except they do human sacrifices. So they're like the people everybody thinks the Santeria practicing people are. Like, those are the guys.
Yeah.
So basically, Constanzo, Adolfo Constanzo, is a priest in this religion, and he gets in touch with the gang through this woman named Sarah Aldrett, who was an honor student. She's not even a woman. She's a girl. She's an honor student at Texas Southmost College. She's a cheerleader for the college.
Oh, my God.
The people that talked about her were like, there's no way. She's just like this sorority girl.
Yeah, she's probably the perfect
two-shoes.
image.
Yeah. And then apparently would leave campus and go do human sacrifices in the desert.
Dang.
And just totally in fact, they even talked about possibly she had multiple personalities. So that's not the right word for it anymore. And I was going to write it down, but I was like, no, I'll remember what it's called. Dissociative disorder?
Yeah. I'm like trying to think about the initials in my head, or like
disorder.
Not initials, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, the acronym.
Well, we all know what we're talking about.
Right. It used to be called multiple personality disorder, and now it is not. All right, so that one. So, there's a possibility that she had that going on. But the reason that Constanzo was interested in her, other than the fact that she was like super beautiful and persuasive and could get people to do all kinds of like crazy things like human sacrifices, she also was dating somebody that was in the Hernandez gang.
Oh,
and
okay.
he wanted into that world for the money. So she hooks him up, and Constanzo tells the gang that he can turn their luck around. And if they follow him and do what he says, that they would be immune to the police, to death, to getting caught. They would make all kinds of money. They would never lose.
So they're going into
business.
this thinking all of this.
Right. He could make all of this happen with his magic religion.
Okay.
So, they, in exchange, had to cut him in, and I don't know what he ended up getting as far as money goes, but at one point, the leader, the new leader, Elio, offered him like half of their profits.
Wow.
If he could do all of this. So I don't know if that's what he actually, if that was where the contract was actually drawn up, but he got a chunk of money for this. So, he starts with this gang, like leading them in this religion. And the thing is that some of it he does has to do with whatever like the tenets of Palo Mayombe or whatever it's called are. But a lot of it, he's just making up shit as he goes. So sometimes there's voodoo, and sometimes there's, I had a dream last night, and now we're all going to do this today. And, you know, I need
So
you
he's
to go.
pulling it out of his ass.
He is. He's just pulling the whole thing out of his ass. So they should have known this from the beginning, because the way that they converted followers, and mostly this was Sarah's job, the honor student, was to force them to watch the movie The Believers, which is an old thriller film about a New York City cult that practiced human sacrifice in order to get money and power and protection.
So what they were doing.
So basically, he took...
Oh my God.
He took this movie and he was like, this.
He's like,
this
oh,
is like
we
a
should just do this.
documentary. I can make this happen. So, and they said like the people in the Hernandez gang like had to watch it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah,
until
that
they
was their
believed
script.
it. Yeah, pretty much.
They had to follow it.
Pretty much that.
Oh my God.
And they did. And they did. So one of the things that he did is that he made Elio Hernandez, who's like the leader of the gang now, an executioner priest. And then later he made a couple other people executioner priests too. And they would sacrifice people. They would hold all sorts of like little ceremonies. There's just all these little things they had to do. And the thing is that their business did do better. And it may have just been kind of placebo-y, you know, like they had confidence it was going to do better, so it did better.
It did.
But either way, then that just made them believe it more and more, and they were willing to do more and more terrible things because it's working. Right now, we're all rich.
That's creeping me out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the stories that's related to this, Elio Hernandez, the executioner priest, they're there and they're going to do a sacrifice. They have this cop that is a dirty cop, but he had somehow betrayed them. And so they're going to sacrifice him. And so
that's smart.
Yeah. Well,
dirty cop or not, cops stick together, so.
Right. Well, this cop pulls a gun because, you know.
He's a cop.
He's a cop and he has a gun and he's probably at least a little bit trained to shoot at you if you try to cut his head off. So that he pulls the gun, so they have to kill him. And it's before their ceremony has started, so it doesn't count as a sacrifice.
Oh my God.
So they're like, well, shit, we're right in the middle of this. We need another victim. Quick, go grab the first person you can. And they send 3 of the gang members out to grab the first person they see. So the first person that they see is a 14-year-old boy who is out wandering around looking for his lost goat. And they toss a bag over his head and they bring him back and they say whatever magic mumbo jumbo that they need to say. And Elio doesn't even take the bag off his head and he beheads the kid.
Oh, no.
And kills him. Then he looks, after the ceremony's all done, he looks down at this person that he just killed. And he's like, man, that gray and green football outfit or baseball looks really familiar. It was his freaking nephew.
Oh my God.
He killed his own nephew.
Oh my God, I'm trying to contain my rage for a second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you're so cool and you're going to go executing people You should at least check.
Take the bag off the head. And well, because you set these people loose in your neighborhood, said grab the first person
your
you
neighborhood.
See.
Like, and
Your
the goat was probably
family's
missing because it was in the
there.
freaking cauldron.
He probably was. He was the other head. So anyway, he's
Oh my
a
God.
sick motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he didn't even, like, I don't know. He said he was horrified to discover it was his nephew, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like he then went to his sister or his brother, whoever's kid it was, and was like, oh my gosh. Because this boy ends up being one of 3 people that are identified of all the bodies that they end up finding. And he's identified by his parents. So they just go bury him. And he's identified by his clothing because they don't bury the head there. So they never find his head.
Oh, that's sad.
So, March of '89, so now we're back in the beginning of the story, present day. Mark Kilroy had gone to spring break in southern Texas, northern Mexico, and he gets kidnapped by Seraphin, who's the other nephew of Elio. They lock him in a car, and they drive him out to the ranch, and at one point, he manages to get out. Like, they've got him handcuffed or whatever. He gets out of the car, and he runs. And for
in the
several
desert
blocks. Right. And then a second car from the same gang is following the first car, and they catch him again. It's like the worst luck ever. He probably was flagging them down, like, help me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll help you get in.
Get in. And then so they lock him in the car overnight. In the morning, the caretaker of the ranch, who is... Reyes. Bustamoves. The caretaker of the ranch, Bustamoves, comes in and he feeds him bread and eggs and water for breakfast.
Okay.
Then he takes duct tape and mummifies his head. So he totally wraps it around his mouth and his eyes can't see. And he keeps him chained up and takes him out and they do whatever their little ceremony is. And then Constanzo, so the original priest, chops through the back of his neck with a machete and severs his vertebrae in the back of his neck. Kills him instantly.
Yeah. Ugh.
Then, because we're totally normal in this gang, they take a piece of wire and they thread it through his spinal column, like through the cut that they made, down through his spinal column, which is still in his body, all the way down, so that they can bury him. They leave this wire sticking out of the ground so that after his body rots, they can pull it out and use his vertebrae for a necklace. Yep, that was the plan.
Oh, God.
It's so gross.
Yeah.
They chop off his legs and possibly his arms to make it easier to bury him. And they bury him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. That was...
There's ginger ale in the fridge. Do you need some ginger ale?
Ooh,
I won't
the
even
whole necklace part was like,
yeah.
The whole anything neck, spine. I don't like it. Okay.
Spines make me so nervous. It's like that hanging thing. Like,
I'm like, oh my God, I can break my back at any minute.
Right.
I'm always. I literally I could stub my toe. I'm like, oh my God, what if I broke my back? Right. I'm that paranoid.
I jerked really hard when I hit my toe just now. What if it broke?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's move away from that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when they arrest everybody, they're like, is he here? And the guys they arrest just lead him out, and they're like, yep, here's...
Because they thought they were
invincible. It didn't matter what they told the cops. Here's the wire sticking out of the ground. And so the cops were like, here's a shovel, dig it up. And so they do. Like, they made that was the thing that I thought was just great, because I know that's not how it works here.
No.
But every single body that gets uncovered in this case, they made the murderers dig them up. Like, they had to do all the hot work in the sun.
That's kind of funny.
Well, so I understand why we don't do it. Because we don't want them to destroy evidence. But this was also, it wasn't that long ago, but it was 40
They were using what they thought against them. They thought they were invincible, so they were like, sure, I'll show you.
Right.
They had nothing to hide. They didn't care.
Yeah.
So, in that case, they wouldn't ruin any evidence. They would just be like bragging.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't really have to worry about it.
They were like, here you go. Here's the spine.
Yeah, but a good lawyer here would be like, well... They mishandled all this evidence. They let the bad guys dig it up. But either way, like they were talking about at one point, they had one of the guys digging up a body, and when he got like the foot uncovered, the smell of decay just hit everybody so hard. And by that point, there were news crews everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the cameramen like went and gave the criminal like a handkerchief to put over his face because he was gagging so much that, you know, even though he had guns pointing at him and everything else, he was like getting sick.
Ugh, anyway, I would.
So they found 14 other bodies as well, all of which had been killed over a 9-month period.
Okay.
They only ever identified 3. They identified Kilroy, which because he was a young white American kid, that's the only reason that any of this ever got solved. Because, like, and even the other families of people that were identified and the other people who were, like, waiting to see if their loved ones were in the graves, they were like, well, thank God for this white American kid, because we never would have known.
That's true.
So, and a lot of the victims were other drug families or like other people that they quarreled with or whatever else, but a lot of them were really random. Like Constanzo would be like, I need you to go get me a redheaded kid, and then they would just run out and get whatever. So they identified Kilroy with the wire through his spine. They identified Jose Luis, who was Elio's nephew that he beheaded, not knowing he was his nephew. And then they also identified a 52-year-old named Moises Castillo. Of all the other, so the other like 11 bodies, they never figured out who they were. And I think a lot of them, because they were using the brains in rituals, most of them were beheaded. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence.
Yeah.
They'd been out in the hot, decaying and everything. So, and they were also a lot of people that probably people weren't really looking for.
Well, yeah.
So they also found at the ranch 243 pounds or 110 kilograms of marijuana.
Whoa.
243 pounds is a lot. That's like all my children combined and then some.
Wow.
Might be all my children combined almost twice. Almost. Yeah. They found 108 grams of cocaine. They found 12 firearms, including 3 machine guns.
Oh, my God.
Before this whole cult thing, that was how they killed everybody, is they would just like drive by and machine gun them down.
Holy shit.
And they found 11 vehicles belonging to various people.
I'm surprised that didn't help ID them.
I think the vehicles belonged to gang members. I think they were like stolen cars and like cars they were using in trafficking and all that. I don't think they were victims.
I don't know why I was thinking it was victims.
Yeah, no. They interviewed the suspects, who calmly told them everything. They let the suspects get press interviews before like they'd even been officially arrested. They Elio actually like took off his clothes to show the press his scars. He had all these brands all over him that meant that he was an executioner priest, and here's the one that means that I can do blood sacrifices, and he was really proud of it and showing it off.
Ew.
Kilroy's, the family of Mark Kilroy, so his mom and dad flew in, and there was tons of press.
Oh, I bet.
They were like very strangely forgiving. I don't know if they just really wanted to put on a good face for the media, or if they're just this kind of like generous person. I wouldn't have been this way, but they were like, we need to pray for these bad guys, and like if they get to heaven, I just hope they find my son and apologize to him, and like this is such a tragedy, but really it's just, you know. So they were uber religious. I'm pretty sure they were Catholic. And they, I don't know, they were
I still would have a hard time with
super
that.
forgiving. Yeah, they weren't. I don't know. The whole situation was bizarre once they started.
They kind of like
people.
were treating it like it was an accident, almost like, no, you did something wrong, but it's okay.
Right. They were misled. We need to pray for their souls because they've been involved in all this devil worship. And, so after they had arrested everybody and recovered all the bodies and everything else, the Mexican police went back and they brought with them a priest who could do white magic, and they blessed the shed where all the bodies were found. And then they covered it in gasoline and burned it to the ground. They were like, nope, nobody else is going in here. So, June of 1989, so this was April when they started making all the arrests, so pretty quickly, a police chief, Salvador, something that starts with an A, Salvador A, was indicted for being a go-between for the gang but he wasn't charged with any of the murders, but he was definitely dirty and like had been helping them out. The next year in August, De Leon got 30 years for killing Constanzo and his lover. So what happened was when everybody who didn't get arrested at the ranch fled, they went on the run, and they were, of course, being chased, and they got cornered in this house, and they had weapons and everything with them, and they knew there was going to be a shootout. So the priest, Constanzo, was there, and he had his lover with him. And I didn't actually write down her name because that was the only time she appeared in the story. And he said, I need for you, to one of the other, to De Leon, I need you to kill us. I want to die with her right here. Like, send us to hell or wherever it is that we go in this religion right now before the police come in. And so they sat on stools, and the guy like hesitated. And so apparently he stood up and he slapped him, and he's like, how dare you not do your duty? Like, this is an order or whatever. And so he shot him. He had like a machine gun, and he mowed him down. So he got 30 years for killing the priest, the other bad guy.
Been assisted suicide.
Yeah.
But who am I to judge?
I mean, he also would have been involved in all of the other...
anyways, yeah. So he deserved it anyways. But that one I would have, I would have fought assisted suicide.
As a lawyer... Although then they probably just would have been like, well, yeah, but he was also involved in the killing of these 14
they just got him
people,
for something
15
else.
people, yeah. The ranch caretaker, Busta Moves, he was accused of a cover-up, and they released him on a $500 bail. And that was it. Like, I don't think he ever returned. I think he just disappeared, but he never served
like he
any
should
time.
have.
Right. So I guess being there and feeding people their last meals...
That was all okay.
That's okay. As long as you got $500. So, May 1994, so now we're like 5 years past the crime, Aldrich, Sarah, the honor student girl, is sentenced to 62 years in prison for her part.
Dang.
And then the other cult members, including Seraphin, got 67 years. And the things they were charged with were homicide, narcotics possession, being members of organized crime, impersonating police officers, apparently they did that, illegal body desecration, possession of firearms, and possession of weapons exclusive to the Mexican armed forces. So like the machine guns and things that you're not allowed to have. There is, or at least at that time was, no death penalty in Mexico, so they couldn't sentence them to death. So they added everything up and sentenced them to 67 years. The reason that Sarah Aldrich didn't get 67 is that they couldn't or didn't want to tie her to the like military weapons charges. So they had given them 5 years additionally for that, so she got 62.
Gotcha.
So, but it didn't really matter because in March of 98, so another 4 years later, several of these cult/gang members managed to get their sentences reduced to 50 years. And this is really common in Mexico because they don't do life in prison. That's not a sentence they can hand out. And so 50 years is like the max that you can get for any one crime. So frequently anybody who's sentenced to more than 50 years will be able to get it down to 50 years. But really it's probably not going to matter. Like they're not going to survive 50 years in a Mexican prison.
No.
They were all crazy adults anyway. So, Aldrich claimed that she was innocent until the very end. She said that the police tortured her into confessing, that they beat her, they abused her. She said that Constanzo abused her and forced her to participate in things that she didn't want to. She said that one time she had gone out to meet with him, like I guess to ask him to stop or something, and he was like, well, now you know where we are, so we can never let you leave, and kidnapped her.
Oh, God.
And she even wrote a biography where she claimed innocence through the whole thing. Seraphin, the guy who originally led them to the ranch, he was actually a student too, and he was very young, and he was one of those, like, he was not trying to be involved in all of the gang and cult stuff, but it was his family, so he kind of had to be. He claimed innocence. He said that he was just visiting his family and he had no idea what they were up to.
Oh my God. And, I hate
yeah. And that he was tortured into a confession by the police, which I will say, like, in the initial like when the reporters first came, when they were still digging up the bodies and everything, they asked like, well, why would those people confess? And they made some sort of gesture or like allusion to the fact that they had been like squirting water up their noses to make them confess. And so there were things going on that would not be acceptable here in an interrogation. But at the same time, Seraphin definitely was in charge of the kidnappings. He's, you know, one of the people that went out and
still had a heavy hand in all this.
Yeah, he may have been beaten up by the police, but he is not innocent just because that happened.
No.
Kilroy's parents, so the original college student that was on spring break, actually took this and made it into a really good thing. He had wanted to be a doctor, and all of this had happened because of drugs and drug trafficking. So they started a foundation to teach people how to be drug free. They did the whole just say no thing. That was them. They got big grants from the government and raised tons of money and helped lots of people. And
so they try to flip this to be like not a good thing, but you know what I mean?
Right. Something positive come out of this.
I mean, everybody deals with it differently. I don't know if I'd be able to do it that way.
Maybe eventually, years and years and years and years and years later, when I had lots of good counseling. But they seemed to, just like when their son was found, be like oh, well, let's see how we can turn this. They must have been
very, like, into their faith. Because I feel like that happens when you're like that. Like,
right.
It just becomes easier.
Yeah, I don't... But. And he'd been missing for a month. It was probably almost a relief to find out what happened.
Oh, yeah. They probably were, like, more worried about him being missing.
But I still wouldn't have been... I wouldn't have been like that. I'm not that good a person. So, all right. You have one more little story to finish us off?
Yep. I'm pulling it up now. So, this one is called Dexter Made Me Do It.
Yes!
And I picked this one for you because I know you love Dexter.
I did watch a bunch of it, actually.
I know at one point, and I couldn't do it because it's too much blood for me.
It was a lot of blood.
I can't do that blood.
Well, it was one of those things where I started to watch it, and I was like, oh, God, this is terrible. It's not entertainment at all. And then I gave it another shot a little while later, and I was like, but the characters are really compelling. Yeah. And I watched a bunch of it. So Dexter Made Me Do It.
So this teenager, actually...
Oh...
I know. So
what's it with you and finding kids that kill people?
And it's not my fault. It's just the fact that this is just what comes to me, and I don't pick it, I promise. But it's kind of weird because it ties into my story.
The internet made you do it.
Right? Yeah. That's gonna be on my tombstone. Okay. So this one actually kind of ties into my story earlier.
Okay.
And this teenager strangled his little brother.
No.
So that he said he was inspired by the TV series Dexter.
No, not okay. Dexter doesn't do that to his sister. Well, I don't know. I didn't watch that far.
Oh.
He might, but I don't think so. He seems to care about her.
He said he identified with the character from the hit TV series, and he said that he's 17 years old, and he told detectives that he's wanted to kill someone for years.
So there was something wrong with him.
So, yeah, he said he had this urge to commit a murder for as long as he could remember, and that it was like someone who was hungry and had to eat.
Oh, man.
He fantasized about murdering his own father. He told police that he had been messing around with his brother Connor, and he locked his hands around his neck, and just like that, he ended up strangling the 10-year-old little brother with his bare hands for 20 minutes to make sure he was dead.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, no.
I feel like if you have this urge to kill someone before it gets to the point that you actually do it, maybe you should tell somebody.
No.
And get some help.
Just lock it all up. That's what everybody does these days.
Oh my gosh.
So he stuffed the little brother's body in a bag and dumped him in a park near their home, and this was in Indiana. And later he drove to his girlfriend's home where they just watched a movie.
Oh my gosh.
Act like nothing ever happened. But he did confess to killing his brother, saying that he had an uncontrollable urge for murder and wanted to model himself like Dexter.
So was he trying to, like, have an insanity plea, or like, I need to go to...
I don't think so, because he said in court, in his court affidavit, he said, I just feel like him. He also likened his urge to kill and to someone who has a craving for a hamburger. Ugh, yeah. So, he just, anywho. Ugh. So they did try to claim that he was insane, which I didn't think that they did, but he changed his plea to guilty, which is why I didn't think he did, because I just read that he pleaded guilty. He faces a minimum of 45 years in prison.
I'm okay with that.
Prosecutors who have also described the teen as just evil, well, because he is, plan to seek a sentence with life without parole.
Right. Well, because he doesn't sound at all remorseful. He's like, yep, I have this urge. I've always had this urge. Like, he would hurt other people. Well, that's what they said. It's disturbing that a 17-year-old would want to kill under any circumstances, let alone his own brother. Well, right. And it wasn't even like his brother did something and it was a fit of rage. Because, I mean, for a 17-year-old boy to lose control and have a fit of rage, that's not out of the norm. I mean, to actually kill somebody would be, but
nope, they were just like play fighting, or, he said messing around, so I'm assuming that they were roughhousing or something, and then just got locked there, and he just couldn't stop himself.
Oh my gosh, so he's sick.
Yep, they described him as emotionless when he was interviewed by the police.
That's where, like, creepy killer kids, and
because they just don't really show anything. But they did put like just a little side note. This is the second murder that was allegedly aspired by Dexter.
Really?
So they did put a little note about like what it was, and it says in 2008, a 29-year-old Canadian man mimicked the storyline from the drama when he allegedly killed 39-year-old Johnny whatever. So he followed one of the episodes, I guess, but that was the other crime.
Yeah, I understand why people are like, oh, TV is evil and it gives people ideas and blah blah blah, but I find it really hard to believe that neither of those people would have killed had they not watched TV.
Oh yeah, I think if it was an urge, like someone who was hungry and needed to eat, he was going to kill regardless of what he watched on TV.
Ugh.
But they did
that seems to be such an argument for, like, sociopaths or psychopaths or whoever are.
Oh, it's so sad. They put like a little in memory of cross in the park where his body was dumped.
How would you be the parents of those kids?
Yeah.
Like, and when one of your kids kills the other, you want to stick up for your kid and, like, take care of them.
I don't think I would. I think it would shift all of your focus.
How could you ever trust anyone though? Like, you made that human being, you raised him, you are really responsible for every bit of him.
Yep. I know. So that was my little short story. That was back in 2010.
So not even that long ago.
That was
I guess it couldn't be all that long ago.
Yeah, I would say that was because it was reported in 2010. He died in 2009.
Now I want to watch Dexter.
Oh my god.
Or Criminal Minds.
I watched Criminal Minds today. And it was about the one with the exorcism one where the two priests.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my god, this is great.
I already did a story on this. I find myself being super annoying and I keep trying to stop myself, but I'll be having a conversation with somebody and something will come up and I'll be like, oh, so there was this story. I mean, Jordan told us about it on our podcast, but it's like everything is now related to crimes. People are going to think I'm like nuts.
That's okay. That is why we are crime crazy.
It's true. It's true. You're such a dork.
Well,
it's true.
I'm good at segueing. I should have been like a TV anchor.
Right.
I've been like, and back to the story.
Right. Back to you in the studio. So I have some shout outs. And you have some shout outs. You have at least one shout out.
I do. I have one.
Because I don't have a clue who that person was.
Oh, well, you do now.
Yeah, I do now. So We have been asking for iTunes reviews or reviews on other platforms. That's cool too. And just let us know that you did it. We check iTunes. That one's a really easy one to kind of figure out. But I know not everybody's an Apple person. I'm actually not an Apple person.
I'm not either.
I don't like Apple. But iTunes is ruling the world of podcasts at the moment. So go there. So here are some shout outs for people who have left us reviews this week. We have someone named BossyPants16.
Love the name.
Yeah, left us an awesome review. Emily P. left us a review. April B. left us a review in a comment on Podbean, which is where we host our podcast right now. And they don't seem to have like a rating system or anything like that, but you can definitely leave comments and they come straight to our phone and email and we will get back to you and like we'll have conversations, that kind of thing. Then, of course, we already talked a little bit about Donna T, who might be our new biggest fan. She's working on it. She's been all over our social media. And then also CCD1111 has left us a really great review on iTunes. And we really appreciate you guys. You know, we appreciate all of the feedback, even the negative feedback, because it's good to know.
Quick, my shout out.
Oh, yeah, your shout out.
Well, little backstory. Aaron and I were at Walmart replacing my torn apart notebook.
We got her a new notebook and a new pen.
And a new pen, guys. It's like, I don't know, the 2017 version, I suppose. But I want my old 2010 version. And
find the exact same one.
I'll find it on Amazon or something.
This one's a clicky pen.
I know, but it's okay.
Fancy.
I can handle the clicky pens. But we ran into some of our big fans. Really just one, her daughter didn't really know anything about us.
No, her daughter was looking at everybody like we were all crazy.
But
like,
her name is Susan, and she listens to us, and she was so excited, and she said maybe next time she'd get our autograph.
That's right.
So, guys, I don't know. She might be a top fan. She already asked for an autograph,
That's
technically.
True. Oh, we had somebody online ask for, like,
swag. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a shout out to them and thank you for listening and following us on Instagram. Oh, and if you're not following us on Instagram, that is Crime Crazy Pod. So look us up.
Definitely. Also, Twitter is at Crime Crazy Pod. I spend a lot of time there.
So if you want, you can email us because that's the fastest way because it goes to both of our phones
Oh,
immediately.
yeah, right away. Yeah.
So, and that's crimecrazypodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And then we're also on Facebook. We have our Facebook group and our Facebook page.
So either which way you could find us.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have lots of different ways that you can get in touch with us. And we would love to hear stories. We'd love to hear about your favorite crimes. I mean, really, probably half the crimes that I've talked about are things that people have suggested or mentioned or why didn't you do one about this? And that's great because, you know, I gravitate toward certain things and Jordan gravitates towards certain things, but we would love to branch out. So give us your ideas.
Send it to us.
Yeah, your feedback. I actually am going to give you homework here at the end because, you know, teacher. But before I do that, I wanted to say thanks for listening to this week's episode of Crime Crazy. And I hope that this was a more enjoyable experience than some of the ones that have been like littered with dog noises and strange whistles and everything else. We're working really hard on the sound, but that is something we love feedback about too. If anything went on this time that is not quite right, let us know because we're learning all the technical part of it. But we want to make it perfect. We really hope that you enjoyed listening as much as we loved, like, laying on this super uncomfortable couch and talking.
Yes.
Trying to make Jordan puke. And if you did, please go onto iTunes and subscribe and rate and review. Or if you're an Android person, you can download pretty much any app that isn't a podcast app and find us. And if you download a podcast app and you can't find us, just let us know. Just DM us on Twitter, send us an email.
I mean, we're even on YouTube, y'all. So that's already on every phone.
It is true. We are on YouTube. Although I've noticed that episodes 8 and 9 did not show up. So I'm going to have to work on that. But they'll be up very shortly. And, of course, we will give you a shout-out no matter what kind of review you leave us. So give us your honest feedback.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Yep. If you loved our show, we now have a Patreon account. And we would love if you would consider supporting us. You can even just do $1. We're going to send you all kinds of cool stuff and thank yous and shout-outs.
We just need an excuse to send people things, guys.
That really is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Here is my homework for you. This episode is about to end. And when the episode ends, you're going to have to touch whatever device it is that you're on. Because if you don't, something else may start playing. Or you might have to listen to our theme music forever, or whatever. You have to touch it. So if you are on an Apple device, when this episode ends, just tap on your podcasting app and rate us. Just hit however many stars we deserve and put down one little line about what you thought about it and how great and wonderful we are. If you are on Android, you don't have iTunes, and unfortunately there is some big hole in this market where there's no good place to rate on Android. But what I want you to do is go to podknife.com. So just type it into your browser bar. If you have Chrome, that's the best browser.
Yep.
And you can rate us there. So you just search for Crime Crazy or Crime Crazy Podcast. We will come right up. Podknife is working on putting together kind of a solution for Android users.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so they have a whole bunch of podcasts on there, and they keep all the episodes on there, and they give you a place to rate and review and leave comments and that kind of thing. So please go there and leave us a rating. And have a great week. Remember, we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, but we will be back next Tuesday to talk about it all over again.